And then we waited to hear. So as I shared before, we took our findings and we're currently finalizing our school improvement plan. So we build on those identified strengths. We focus on sustainability. We also look at creating that strategic plan to help us grow in the identified areas. Once PLT and grade level teams review that plan draft, we will make final edits, and the plan will actually be uploaded to our district website for everyone to look at. We also submit our plans to the state in our title application each year. So what's next? A school improvement plan is a moving document. School improvement, of course, is a journey, not a destination. So this plan will always be a work in progress. Though our validation lasts for 7 years, the work certainly won't end on our part. We will continue to survey our stakeholders and gather and analyze data, get feedback from other sources, all to ensure that we're always focusing on the right things. We will also continue to celebrate the amazing staff and students who come to work and to learn at Prairie every day. There will be an award ceremony in February where Prairie will be recognized, and there will also be a big celebration in the spring right at Prairie for all students and staff. MESPA leadership will come to Prairie at that time to celebrate with us. I get to attend a planning meeting via Zoom in early October, so I'm really excited to learn more about what that celebration will entail. But in the meantime, we're having a blast teaching our students what it means to be a school of excellence. It's been a really fun way to start the year. So with that, I'd like to thank the board and truly all of our stakeholders for their support and for celebrating with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Any questions for Heidi?
When you got done and you did the application and stuff, at what point did you, or will you be sitting down and going through this with all the staff so that they're all on the same page and understand what we're doing and where we're going?
Yeah, so we are currently, in fact, it's one of the main things on our agenda tomorrow. We're in that finalizing stage of our school improvement plan. There are certainly pieces that will lend itself from the School of Excellence submission, but the true focus will land in that plan. The leadership team, though, will continue to look at the narratives and find those. There were a lot of areas of strength that were brought to us. So more than changing up a lot of things, we want to figure out how to sustain some of the really good things we already have going. So the leadership team will help lead that.
So that'll be later this year or?
All year. Yeah.
But when will the rollout be to the staff?
All year.
All year?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Do it in pieces then?
Yep.
Okay.
All the pieces will, yep. Leadership team meets the first and third Wednesday of every month, and tied to that, our PLCs meet on Thursdays, so things that are discussed at leadership are able to get out to the grade level teams quickly that way, and it's a good system for solid communication.
Any further questions?
Thank you.
Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to approval of agenda, 2.1 and 2.2.
I move approval of the consent and main agenda.
I'll second, Steve.
Motion by Adams, second by Steve to approve the consent and main agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of minutes.
I move the approval of the minutes for the August 20th, 2024 board meeting, the August 29th school work session minutes, and the August 29th special school board meeting minutes, along with accept the committee meeting minutes, which are included in our agenda.
Motion by Steve,
I'll second.
second by Lori to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approve the items on the consent agenda.
I move for approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Adam, second by Tom to approve the items listed on the consent agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.1, monthly financial overview. Dave?
Now, you should have the revenues and expenditures report through the end of August, so we're a couple months into the new school year. Not a lot happening yet, but we're a little ahead of where we were at last year on revenues, and that's generally a timing issue of when the state gets a lot of their stuff sent out. And we're a little ahead as well on the expenditure side. I'm guessing a big chunk of that is our projects that happened this summer that are getting paid out early, so. Not a lot of other activity going on. The school year started, and as far as we know, everybody's payroll's correct, and we're off and running.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Any questions for Dave?
Has the audit process started? Or the
Yes,
audit-
they've done the field work. We're still providing information for them, and we're still projecting probably in November that we'll get our audit report.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 5.2, approve second reading of policies that are listed. This is a second reading.
I move approval of the second reading of policies 425, 503, 509, 512, 515, 516, 522, 524, 532, 606.5, 608, and 613.
Okay, motion by Lori,
Second.
second by Aaron. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.3, approve hockey agreement. This go was to operations or?
The collaborative agreement with the Hockey Association was presented to the instructional committee. Basically, it ended, the current agreement ended in the end of June, so this would be redoing this. This is agreement that would continue on and until either a new ice arena is constructed, and at that time, then you'd have to consider an agreement with the Hockey Association and an agreement with the city of Worthington. But at this point, everything runs through the Hockey Association. So there are no changes from what it was the last few years, so the recommendation was for approval.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to approve 5.3, the Hockey Association Agreement.
Okay, motion by Tom,
Second.
seconded by Steve. Any questions? Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, a question on the rental lease agreement and the dollar amount there. Has that been adjusted compared to previous years, or how is that dollar arrived at?
That dollar figure has been in place now for a number of years. There was no adjustment to it.
And so there isn't a true date put on? It's a 5-year agreement or 4-year, or it's just evaluated when each party wants to look at it?
Yeah, it's kind of a mutual agreement to renegotiate.
Okay.
Otherwise, it'll just keep going until things change.
Okay, any further questions for John? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.4, approve Minnesota High School, State High School League Constitution to include all ninth graders in MSHSL member schools and to include a Second Amendment proposal.
So this was presented to the instructional committee. What it amounts to is the Minnesota High School League is looking at including the ninth grade as a part of their association. Currently, it has been a 10 through 12, and it's a change of the bylaws, so it'll take, I believe it's 60% in order for the bylaws to change, to have ninth grade a part of that. The district has 2 voting representatives, Mr. Dale and Mr. Bloom. And so as a board, you need to basically help him vote. And at this point, the recommendation from the instructional committee was to approve that, and I would recommend approval for the change in the bylaws.
Okay, we need a motion.
So moved.
Lori, motion by Lori,
Second.
second by Aaron. Any discussion? So Adam actually votes and,
Yeah, so the way that works is there is a electronic email that comes out to Mr. Dale and Mr. Bloom, and then he will vote as a representative of the school board for the district.
Fair.
the,
Does this result in a increase in membership fees then, or is this mostly just for participation of younger students, or does this, is there a change in their fee structure for what they charge school districts based on the amount of members they have?
It could be an increase in fees as well, yes, because they base it on the number of participation, which our ninth graders, some of them do participate at that level, but if they just do it based on enrollment, it could be an increase, yes.
any further discussion? Is it to, so it'll raise more funds for them technically?
Technically, yep.
Yeah. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.5, consideration of the proposed 2024 levy.
So based on the proposed levy, at this point, you would be levying the max, not a number. When we met with the operations committee, the total percentage that it looks like it's changing and increasing at the last week's meeting was 7.61%. As of yesterday, a new sheet came out and adjustments were made. That's why you levy the max. And the percentage that is showing on the increase is 5.3%. So it went down. But I gotta find my one sheet here. I do want to bring up that is not on the levy sheet that I would propose you consider. And it's the levy costs for the service co-op facilities. A couple of years ago, the legislature made it available for service co-ops to get $65 per student, and that's above what the district has authority of $212 per student, to utilize in addressing their facilities. So you have, as a board, made the determination to take that out of general fund the last few years and not least levy it. So currently, it's been in that mid-40 range, so 46, 47. Next year's proposed levy for the district would be almost 84,000, so it's gone up, and it's due to the addition of the new London Spicer site and the elimination of the Bellevue site and moving into the Marshall site is the two primary big drivers. When you figure out $84,000 is, with salary and benefits, has a big impact on what I call personnel. So I would strongly encourage you to consider putting it on the levy sheets at this time versus paying it out of the general fund.
Question, Mr. Chair?
Steve?
So the motion we make then would be to levy the max, or to levy the max and including the per student assessment from the Southwest West Central Service Co-op.
It'd be two.
Two
I think you're
different-
doing two,
Two, okay.
Steve. One, to levy the max, and then two, to include the levy, the service co-op levy on that, because we would need to get that on here in the next month or so.
I would make a motion that we set the levy at the max at this point. We'll have an opportunity to address it again later when we do, before we make our final decision in December.
So that's not including the addition?
That's just the, our levy,
That's
yes.
just this. Then we have to have a second motion for the other one.
If you're going to do that, I would encourage a separate motion, because you made a separate motion not to include it 2 years ago.
So what's the reason that the increase dropped like 2 points?
Pat told me, I got to think. Dave, do you?
Long-term facility maintenance. With our newer buildings, the age of the buildings counts as part of the formula. We've got basically 2 new buildings going on, and then west, the age of west is going off, so it generates less funds. So they made that adjustment to our sheet, and it reduced us by a couple $100,000, I think.
Then, Dave, wasn't our total debt service, that could also still change by $1 million with tax credits, is that correct, by December? Didn't we talk about that? The 3.75 million. Very right column, maximum levy limitation under total debt service is 3.75 million, and I've got a note, and I remember us talking about it, could be reduced by $1 million with tax credits.
That's that ag school credit then
Yeah.
we're talking?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, Adam's right.
yeah,
I recall that too.
okay. Yeah, because the other day in operations, we were looking at a 7.61% increase, so a nice deduction.
And again, I want to remind you, there will be adjustments that could drive this up or bring it further down. There's some things that, it's like a moving target for the first month and a half.
Okay, any discussion?
You have a motion to approve the levy at the max.
I'll second Steve's motion to levy at the maximum amount.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now you want to go to the,
It's up to you whether you want to consider it this month or you want to wait a month.
I would just set it.
what do you want to do, Adam?
I would just set it, because I don't foresee us changing it, are we? Are you talking about
The lease levy portion of adding in. The amount on their part isn't going to really change. It's whether you want to include it in the levy or you want to pay it out of general fund.
Let's put it on as an agenda item for next month. So that way, there's time for us to think about it or get feedback from the community.
Can they get that number, what this will raise that by then, this one? I mean, it'll go up a little bit higher then.
Yeah, it'll probably,
we
Just
can-
under 1%. is what
Yeah, it'd be under 1% increase.
0.8.
So you want to wait till next month to make that decision?
I'm okay with doing it now. We've had this discussion in the past too, and stuff that, it's an opportunity for us to, we can either take it out of our general fund, which affects other programs we do within the school system, or we can levy it, which goes to a specific cause or program, which is the facilities for the Southwest West Central Service Co-op. That's for their special education, other educational programs that we and other school districts in our region utilize. And and they spread out by student, by district, by some formula that they use to discern, to determine how much each goes to each district based on student population, and a flat rate for having them available to the schools, to have them, you know, in case they need those services too. So I think I'm ready to take action on it now.
I don't think too many people in the community are gonna balk about the services it provides and paying the levy. That's how I feel.
Well, we'll need a motion if you want to do it now, so.
Because this is not an item on tonight's agenda, I will make a motion to put this item on the agenda for the October board meeting.
Second.
Okay, motion by Aaron, second by Tom to put it on the October meeting. And then we'll have the exact, probably closer numbers exact, so. Makes no difference to me, it's just what the board
Makes
wants.
no difference to me either. I mean,
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor of moving it till October, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. It'll be in October meeting. Okay, 5.6, approved to set the truth and taxation hearing, which is set for December 17th at 6 o'clock. At this, right here at this location.
What was the date, Joe?
Just December 17th.
Next December board meeting, December 17th.
I make a motion to approve set the truth and taxation hearing for December 17th.
Second?
A motion by Adam, seconded by Matt to set the hearing for December 17th at 6 o'clock. That's at our board meeting, or before the board meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.7, approve out-of-state travel request.
Out-of-state travel request for Sarah Brownen to attend the National Fax Conference, which is in Kansas City, Missouri. The request was recommended by the Staff Development Committee and the school administration, so the recommendation would be to approve.
I make a motion to approve the out-of-state travel request for Sarah Bowen.
Second.
A motion by Lori, second by Tom. Any further discussion?
Is this something that we've known about for a while? Because I realize that this travel is this weekend, so I assume that they've already had to pay registration fees, make travel arrangements and things like that.
The individual knows she's taking a chance, so not approval. It was a really last-minute deal, so.
Okay, fair enough.
She was at a different conference and encouraged to attend this, but then did ask what could happen if not approved. So she knew she might have to take some, personal costs and also maybe even personal.
Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second, correct? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.8, approved to declare surplus property.
This was presented to the instructional committee, and it's high school language arts, 60 copies of A Raisin in the Sun, which is no longer in use. So the recommendation is declare it surplus.
I so move.
Okay, motion by Tom,
Okay.
second by Adam, to declare 60 copies of A Raisin in the Sun. Anyone can step up and have them if they want to. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.9, approved to set assigned fund balance as of June 30th, 2024.
So this was presented to the operations committee, and to set the assigned fund balance at $18,605,918.87, of which, of that amount, the assigned account would be 18.5 for future projects and 105,918.87, which is Cable 3 funds. So that is the recommendation. That would leave the unassigned fund balance at $13,581.33.58. So the recommendation was for approval.
So moved.
Motion by Aaron,
Second.
second by Steve, to set the assigned fund balances as presented. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if Superintendent Langard could maybe explain a little bit the difference between the dollar amounts and the assigned and unassigned, and how they can be utilized in the district.
So the unassigned can be utilized for any expenditure in the district. The assigned has the ability to be used for a lot of expenditures, but since you are designating it as future projects, that's kind of where it is going to be earmarked. Not to say that we can't move it back to the unassigned, but the plan would be to utilize it for future type projects.
I think it's important too to note how these dollars were built. A lot of money in the two accounts. How did that transpire?
So basically, that's managing the budget. So if we have a example, lesser amount of snow, it could be excess dollars that were part of the snow budget or snow removal budget. The biggest portion of it is driven by enrollment. And in our case, Vibe has generated a good share of that dollars. And then some of it is related to legislative action where we may have benefited, but that generally ends up in categorical areas. But that's how some of those dollars begin to increase. Biggest one is enrollment, though.
And is it the assigned or unassigned that we have to keep a certain dollar amount in for operations?
Based on the policy that was established by the board, minimum fund balance is to be at 10% of the expenditure budget, which in this case would be about $7 million, roughly.
Right, which is also 6 to 8 weeks of operation. Is that kind of- It's been always more, but that's the
Yeah.
lowest it's ever been.
The auditors would always recommend 6 to 8 weeks of operation as a minimum. 10% is slightly above that. It's about 10, probably 12 weeks.
Yeah. In the past, we've always used kind of 10 weeks of operation as a guide, which we've always met.
And that's 7 million between the two?
Pardon me?
That's 7 million between the two, the unassigned and the assigned?
No, just the unassigned.
Just the unassigned?
Yeah.
One question about the 105. That is for cable, that is for a specific cost?
Those dollars are part of what was transferred from the city as the fund balance for Cable 3, and so that's why it's assigned to Cable 3. We now are fiscal hosts and supervisors of that program instead of the city. So that's why all the dollars flow through the city to us, and why we need to designate those dollars specifically for Cable 3.
In the Operations Committee, we looked at both the assigned fund balance and the unassigned fund balance, and I believe with the assigned fund balance being a little over 18 million, the unassigned fund balance was still around 13 million. So you compare the 13 million to the, base level 7 million that we want to always maintain. Seems like we're in fairly good shape.
Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.10, approve a request for a medical leave of absence.
We have a teacher that has requested this year as a leave of absence due to a family member needing care due to medical reasons, and so the recommendation is for approval. And we've approved these in the past, so.
I move approval of the request for the medical leave of absence.
Second?
Motion by Lori, second by Matt to approve the medical leave request. Medical leave of absence for an employee. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman. So is there going to be a permanent substitute for the rest of the year? Is it going to be,
They actually hired a teacher for this year as a replacement. Yeah, it's part of the VIBE program.
all right,
Okay. Any further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.11, approve media request procedures, practices, and guidance guide.
So the media document has been gone through. We met with the local media folks, as well as the communications committee reviewed it and met. From when the operations committee met to where it is now, there was one change in there, and that's on the second page where, right above the employee-related information, that paragraph was changed and made more factual. It didn't have some of that fluff in there, so I believe it was a really good change. Otherwise, all the recommendations that were there have been considered either adjustments or made here. I do want to highlight that this is not meant to hinder particularly our local media, because they work hard to cover our students and staff and want to make sure that they do that. This is not for what I'll call outside the school hours. Things don't change there for media to meet with, say, a football player or whoever. It's really during the school day, and it's trying to make sure we have a good handle on who's in the buildings, and we don't want to limit particularly the local media. It's not really changing their process much. It's really notification from them so that we can ensure we know who's in the buildings and what's going on. So at this point, recommendation is for approval.
Okay, we need a motion.
So move.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Adam. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, a few questions. It's listed as a guidance document. Help me understand how that is enforced, or the difference between that and an actual policy.
The the guidance and practices, we're trying to establish a routine so that we have some control, not only on who's in our buildings, but what's there, provide better security, and provide a process that the media utilizes when wanting to talk to a student or staff member during particularly our school day. That's really where we're wanting to do that. Oftentimes, you as board members don't realize the number of state or national media folks that call us on a regular basis, but it's also meant to address what I'll call those freelance media people who don't always want to follow the rules, so to speak. And that's really one of our biggest concerns at this point is the freelance folks.
So when the Washington Post calls, we'll send them a copy of this or just be using this as we're discussing their interest?
It'll be used as the conversation with them, and it may get sent to them depending on what their request is. Yeah. And in the rest of my time, I can honestly say the Washington Post will have a difficult time coming to this district.
Okay, we need a motion.
You got a motion
We
and a
have a
second.
motion and a second, okay. Any further discussion?
Just one other point, Mr. Chairman, I'll be voting against the motion. I appreciate the intent. I just am concerned about the layers that are created that will have a potential impact on the way our local media is sharing the success stories of our students.
How so, Matt?
What's that?
How so?
Well, if you read through it several times there, and if you are truly going to take it to heart and do every step that is indicated there, there is more steps put into accomplishing the plan, and that's to do an interview or all kinds of other ways of sharing the story of our student. So that, and we have one high school. We have one building for each of our age groups. We're not a large district. We do not have a TV station that covers us. We have one newspaper and one radio station. And I think the timing of implementing this is also a bit reactionary.
So what changes do you think could be made to make it easier?
Well, I hate to say, it's too maybe reactionary to say that we were doing it was just fine, because I do understand that there are situations where we need to help our students be aware of the situations they're in, but I also think we should be spending more time helping our students understand the amount of self-induced media pressure they put on themselves every day with the social media posting that they're doing that is a lot more vulnerable to them than local media trying to share their message. Just my comments.
Steve?
I understand the value of our local media and what a great job they do in our community, not just with the school district, but as a community as a whole. But I also understand that there are a lot of other people out there that aren't necessarily looking out for the best interests of our community. And I think from our district standpoint, we got to be careful that we are consistent in how we're doing this, so we don't run into a problem with somebody coming in that we don't want to have problems with, and then they turn around and say, okay, where's your policy or what's your practice, and then we're treating somebody different from somebody else. So I think we need to have something here that we can work with as a guide, and we can fall back on if the need comes here, that we're trying to be consistent with everybody that comes in and makes requests. And as you said, it used to be pretty straightforward who your media was, and now a lot of people are claiming they're in the media, but they don't print anything and they don't necessarily broadcast, but it's online. And I can see it becoming more and more difficult for us to say, you can't come in, but you can, and having justification and things. So I don't know if there's anything more in here we could clean up. I think we've had the discussions with the media to some extent, saying what can we do a little bit differently to make it easier and do it, but still have something there for us to fall back on. And I think we can try this and move ahead with it, and if we find that it's becoming too cumbersome or burdensome, we could always amend our policy or this guidance and update it to address issues when we run into them and go that way. But I think we should have something there for us to use and to have available to us. So if something comes up and it's not working for our local media, I would more than be happy to, revisit and modify our guidance or policies to accommodate what we can do to make sure that they can do their job and do it well as they have in the past. So I think maybe that we've had the back and forth with them, and it may not be perfect yet, but I would say let's vote on it and get it in place, and we can then adjust it and modify it as they bring up issues that are creating problems for them.
Any further discussion? Do we have a current practice now in place? We have nothing in place right now. So this is trying to address at least the first step in the process. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Got 2 noes. Okay, motion carries. 5.12, approve annual YMCA agreement.
Our current agreement with the YMCA for the use of the pool and aquatics for our students ran out in June. This would be the updated version for this year, and it'd be for the entire school year. And the dollar figures for the use in the agreement have not changed. So the recommendation is approval.
Okay. Need a motion?
I'll move to approve the annual YMCA agreement as presented.
Okay, motion by Aaron,
Second?
seconded by Matt, to approve the annual YMCA agreement as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I guess that's all on the main agenda. We can go to reports. John?
Just a couple quick items. One, the strategic master plan. As you begin moving forward and addressing transition things and structural things, I would like you, and I can resend it if you'd like, but I'd like to make sure you keep that in your minds as you're moving forward. One, we need to keep students first. Two, we need to keep our staff and facilities and community as the second goal, and that's all identified as part of the fiscal responsibility. So please, if you haven't looked at it or you need another copy as you begin to plan and move forward, please make sure you keep that in your mind. The second thing I want to point out is in the MSBA journal, which I know you all get, on page 12, it talks about online schools, and I believe this is based on enrollment, but our VIBE program is number 5 on the list. So just, you might want to look at that page in the MSBA magazine. So, the other thing I want to mention is we've had a, knock on wood, wonderful start to the school year. It's probably, in my view, been one of the best in the last decade. Things are going well. So I hope I'm not jinxing us by making that a public statement, but very appreciative to everyone for how the school year has started out, and everybody seems to be on track right out of the gate, which is awesome. And the last thing I want to mention is, I've asked Carmen Johnson, the HR person, our HR coordinator or director, to talk to you next month about leave and the leave tracking that is coming our way like a freight train. And I will tell you, it's going to be a big task. So we may be talking to you about some additional clerical support in able to track all this leave. So I just want to give you a heads up. It's coming your way. We'll visit with you at the next operations committee meeting as part of what may need to happen in order to address some changes and appropriately track leave. So with that, that's all I have.
Okay, any questions for John? Hearing none, we'll go on to instructional committee report.
Mr. Chair, everything's been covered on the instructional committee side of things here at the school board meeting. We did talk a little bit about enrollment, which was at 3,350 or so to start the school, and we'll get a update, I'm guessing, in the next weeks on where that's at. So otherwise, everything's covered.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Operations committee,
No further updates.
Aaron? Nothing? Nothing to report, okay, thank you. Any other reports?
Mr. Skog?
Yes?
He was on our operations. And then Aaron.
Been covered.
It was in the consent, but
Yeah. So there was an agenda item added to the agenda at the operations committee, and that was to discuss retirement, and Dave Skog announced that he was going to retire at the end of the calendar year. So, and we will celebrate Mr. Skog in due time.
Okay, got a few months to go yet, Dave, so. Okay, any further, you're done with your report?
Yep, thanks, Adam.
Okay. Any other reports? Okay, other business, mediation scheduled for October 2nd. Custodians, and for October 3rd for the paraprofessionals at 9 a.m. in the district office. Is that attended by any board members, or is that?
That's up to you. The operations committee who's in charge of that is more than welcome to be a part of that. Otherwise, Mr. Skog, Mr. Noble, and myself will address that.
Okay. I guess I'll let you know if they want to attend.
Okay.
Are both meetings at 9 a.m. on those 2 days?
And they'll be potentially all day. So you would need to free up your entire day, just in case.
can you do Zoom?
Combine.
Okay, that's up to the members of the operation if they want to attend or not. But okay, future business, facilities work session following this meeting. And superintendent search planning meeting tomorrow at the district office at 6 p.m. We will take about 5-10 minutes here before we start our work session after this board meeting. Any further business? Hearing none, we'll call this adjourned.